Hello YouTube. Hey, I want to make a video showing how to work on your cap and rotor on your distributor and just your distributor in general, some tips that might help you out. So on this one I actually did this job, and after doing it I thought, there's a lot of tips that I could give people to maybe help them out with this job. So I'm going to start. First thing is I'm going to talk about the firing order of your car, because this will come in important. Your spark plugs over here, they're lined up 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the front of the engine is considered the side with the timing belt, and so that's going to always be your number 1. This is going to be your number 4. Now your firing order is not like that. Easy way to remember it: just remember your number 2 spark plug is pulled out and shoved to the back, and that'll make more sense in a second as far as firing order is concerned. In other words, this number 1 spark plug fires, it jumps over 2, then it goes 3, 4, and then it jumps back to 2. And the reason why, there's different ways you can remember it. I'd like to just take the number 2 and put it in the back. You can also remember 1342. It's kind of like a year sounding thing. But whatever works for you, just move the number 2 number to the back and you'll get your order correct. And that becomes important if you take off your spark plug wires and you can't remember how they go. Also, a little help is if you got decent spark plug wires, the length, the number 1 spark plug wire should be the longest, number 2 second longest, 3 and 4 should be the shortest. So if you're going to take your cap off, what I like to do is just pull the spark plug off. Now somewhere along the line I got a piece of tape on there, and that really helps out because that always tells me where my number 1 spark plug wire is, because if you know where your number 1 is, you can get the rest down. So I highly recommend you mark your number 1 spark plug wire before you pull it off, so you know. And if you do and pull it all apart and you don't know how it goes back together, I'll show you that. So I've already done this and everything's kind of loose, but so the first thing I would do is pull your spark plug wires off your distributor. Okay, next you're gonna already got the screws out, but I'll zoom in a little bit for you. Right there is where just a little socket screw goes in that holds the cap on, and there's 3 of those, and there are one here, and one on the other side. So next you loosen those up. You don't take them all the way out, you just unscrew them and you'll feel them, they'll pull out. Then you can remove your cap, and this is what I'm talking about. I still got a screw in here, see that it just kind of slides in, so you don't need to take it all the way out. I don't like to use a screwdriver on it. I'd just use a socket to get those off. And looking at this, now we're looking at this, let's say you had this and you're trying to put it back together. If you notice it has a flat side, if you go to the opposite flat side on the round, you got a screw here. If you just go up this way, this is always going to be your number 1. So if you find your flat side, and I guess that'd be yeah, clockwise, just move to the right. That's going to be your number 1. And remember I said about your firing order, you just take your number 2 spark plug and drop it to the back. So it goes 1, 3, 4, and 2. So you can, if you remember where the number 1 is, just to the side of this always, then you'll be able to put this back together anytime you accidentally take everything apart and forget where it goes. And again, these spark plugs, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 laid out inside the engine, but they don't fire that way. So this is pretty simple. You get this off, take the screws, take this off. There is a gasket that stays on there. Let me zoom in for you there. That gasket's important. I'd go ahead and replace it, and I recommend OEM parts on this stuff, because Honda electrical systems are pretty finicky. Next thing I want to show you, I'm going to have to freehand this. I'm going to take the camera off the pod. I'll be right back. Okay, next you're going to want to work on taking the rotor off, and if you zoom in, I already took the set screw out. There's a set screw right there, and so you can't get this off unless you take the set screw out, and you won't know there's a set screw if this is not in this position. I don't know which, looks like it's in the number 2 position. Let's take a look, see if that's true. It could be in the number 1 position. I'll have to research that out. That's kind of, here's my number 1 spark plug right here. Whoops, am I lying to you? No, this is number 1. So it does look like it's in the number 2 position. So apparently if you could tell you're in number 2 position, I don't know how you would do that. Anyways, the trick is if you take these wires off, then you can't see that set screw, just get inside your ignition and give it a bump. You just start it up real quick and don't start the engine. Well, it won't start because your spark plug's off. Just give it a quick bump and it'll rotate each cylinder position, and you just keep doing that until you can get to that socket, to that hole right there, and it's just got a little screw that you need to remove, and it's probably got a hex head on it, so you just use a socket to back it off. Once you do that, I recommend getting some CLP, I believe that's just called, some gun oil, and just shoot it right in the, well, here it doesn't matter, but shoot it down there a little bit, and that'll help loosen this up till it slide out. And it usually doesn't slide out that easy. You can't get at it through here, I don't believe. If you're gonna take your rotor out, you could probably shoot a little bit in there, because it doesn't matter if you're gonna replace this anyways. You could always clean it up with WD-40. Anyhow, you can see the threads. They go through there and hold that on, and this won't come off. Now this is tapered, so it'll only go on one way. It's got a half C with a flat side, so you can only put it on correctly. Oops. Then you have your, this is, forget what it's called, it's just basically a dust cover. These only $1. I just go get a new one if you're just busted up. And at that point, you're ready to take your cap, order a new one, and get your rotor if you need a new one. And things you look for is basically, this will be kind of tore up there, and on the bottom here, a lot of times you have pitting on here. This one's kind of damaged right there. You also want to inspect the tip of your secondary coil. Make sure it's nice and clean. Maybe shoot a little WD-40 in there and clean it up. Or electrical contact cleaner would probably work too. So then at that point, that's about it. After you get your new parts in, you just reverse the order, put everything on. Look up your torques for this stuff. It's all pretty low, like 13, I don't know, it's inch pounds or foot pounds, but it's really low for these to put your cap on, so don't go reefing it on there. Also, I recommend lubing this up. Again, I like that CLP gun oil, and then wipe it off so there's no residue. I mean, it's just a thin film that you can't even see if you wipe it off with a rag, and then that'll let your new cap sit on there, and it'll fight corrosion, and it'll be easy to get off next time you got to take it off. So if you put it back and you got your cap back on, so usually people are about this point and then they realize, oh, I didn't write down my number 1. Remember I told you find that screw right back here and it's up 1, so that's going to be your number 1. So you're just going to plug your number 1 spark plug. Mine's marked with that tape right there, and then you put 3, 4, and then 2, and then you're done. And again, these just go along as 1, 2, 3, 4. So I hope all that makes sense. If anybody has any questions about your distributor, like you took it apart and you don't know how to put it back together or something, just shoot me a comment below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up there. If you have any questions, put it down in the comments, and if you subscribe, you'll see more videos as they come out. Thank you for watching.